Hello, my name is Hussein Sbeiti and welcome to my show. Today we're going to be talking about culture, liberalism, and Iran. And the reason we're going to be talking about all three is because all three are linked. So let's begin. There's an epidemic attack on culture today. I'm a Lebanese person, okay? When I meet someone that's Lebanese and I speak to them in Arabic, if they respond to me in English here in the West, I live in Michigan, are they really Lebanese? What makes you a cultural person? What is culture? What is culture? Let's talk about that. Me being from Lebanon, or you, the person watching this, maybe you're from Italy, maybe you're from Ireland, maybe you're from the UK, whatever. And everybody has their own culture. And everyone's culture is different. And that's what makes you unique. You can be from Italy, for example, but if you don't have the culture of Italians, are you really Italian? And so for my case, I'm Lebanese. What makes me a Lebanese person? The fact that I speak Arabic, that's culture. The fact that I know our food, that's culture. The fact that I know our jokes, that's culture. The fact that I know our struggles, I know our pain, I know our suffering, that's what makes me Lebanese. That's what makes me a cultural Lebanese. And what makes you a cultural Italian, for example, is Italians put a lot of olive oil in their food. That's a cultural thing. Italians speak Italian. That's a cultural thing. Italians are very family oriented. That's a cultural thing. That's what makes you Italian. If you're a cultural Italian, you're Italian. And I see a lot of people today, I speak to them in Arabic, I'm Lebanese, I speak to them in Arabic and they respond back to me in English because they can't speak Arabic. Oh, I'm from Lebanon. Are you really from Lebanon? And this isn't about Lebanon only. I'm just speaking in terms of culture in general. But I'm specifically talking about Lebanon because I'm Lebanese. And so when I see someone that is Lebanese, that call themselves Lebanese, but they don't speak Arabic, they don't know the jokes, they don't know the struggle, they don't know our food, they don't know our occasions, they don't know what it is to live among Lebanese people. Are you really Lebanese? Oh, but my parents are Lebanese, so I'm from Lebanon. Yeah, but are you really Lebanese? You could be ethnically Lebanese, but you're not culturally Lebanese. And that's an issue that we have today. We have an epidemic attack on culture. Parents need to step up. They need to instill their culture into their children. Because when I talk to a Lebanese person today in Michigan, for example, they respond back to me in English when I talk to them in Arabic. They're whitewashed. They're westernized. They're Americanized. They've lost the edge of what makes them a Lebanese. And are you truly someone of culture if your culture is America? If you're American cultured but you're Lebanese, then you're an American, you're not a Lebanese person. Parents need to instill their culture into their children, and parents need to step up their game. Because what is the point of me wanting to get married to a Lebanese or be with a Lebanese person if they're whitewashed? Why would I have to go through the steps of looking for a Lebanese person but you're whitewashed, you're Americanized, you're westernized? I live in the West. I'm not westernized. I speak English, but I also speak Arabic. I have traditional values. I understand my values. I understand my culture. And part of my culture, I'm Shia Lebanese from the south of Lebanon. Part of my culture is loyalty, is dignity. That's part of my culture. What is the culture of an American person today? Not the founding fathers. I'm talking about an American person in 2026, not the founding fathers of the United States of America. What is their culture today? If a woman gets into a fight with her husband or with her boyfriend, the culture here is she's going to go run around to find a shoulder to cry on. We all know what that means, find a shoulder to cry on. We all know what you're doing. Cheating is part of their culture. Drinking is part of their culture. And so when I see someone that's Lebanese, but they're Americanized, they're westernized, they're whitewashed, you're not Lebanese. I can't trust you. I don't know what you might do if I get into a fight with you. Are you Lebanese? If I get into a fight with a Lebanese person that's actually cultural Lebanese, I can trust them. I know they're going to try to fix the problem. They're going to try to find a solution. I know they're loyal. I know that for a fact. The people from the south of Lebanon, the Shias, the Lebanese Shias from the south of Lebanon, they are loyal. And the reason we are loyal is because the Shias of the south of Lebanon, we follow Ahl al-Bayt. For the people that don't know who Ahl al-Bayt is the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him's family. Imam al-Hussein, which is the grandson of the Prophet, peace be upon him, fought in Karbala. He stood not for Islam, he stood for humanity. He stood for justice. That's what Imam al-Hussein did. That's who we follow. The Shia Lebanese people from the south of Lebanon. We follow Ahl al-Bayt. That's the movement. That's the message. And so it is instilled in our life. In our everyday life. That is our culture. So when I meet someone that is Lebanese from the south of Lebanon, but they're westernized, they're Americanized, they're whitewashed, they're letting down the Prophet, peace be upon him's family. They're letting down the message of Ahl al-Bayt. In Lebanon, in Ashura is the day of when Imam al-Hussein was martyred. You have Christians, you have Sunnis, you have Shias. They all come together to mourn for the Prophet's grandson, Imam al-Hussein, and all of Ahl al-Bayt. That is a culture in Lebanon. That is a tradition in Lebanon. And it's sad to see that today, when I talk to someone, when I talk to a woman from here, from the US, from Michigan specifically, and she's westernized or she's Americanized or she's whitewashed, I know that she's lost her values, she's lost her culture, her tradition when it comes to Ahl al-Bayt. And yeah, you can pretend you love Ahl al-Bayt, but if you're whitewashed, you truly don't actually believe in Ahl al-Bayt like that. And it's sad to see that it's not the children's fault. It's truly the parents' fault because they're the ones raising the children, unfortunately. And parents have lost it in the US. I compare Canadian Lebanese to American Lebanese. These are two different people. The Canadian Lebanese, they still have their culture. They still have their loyalty. They still have their dignity. Here in America, parents have fallen into the American culture, the American propaganda, the American dream. Individualism, hedonism, degeneracy, that's what the culture is all about here. And that's what the parents have fallen into. Which brings me to my second point of this video's topic today, which is liberalism. Liberalism today is the act of being liberal, being liberated. What are you being liberated from? Who are you being liberated from? The liberals, their whole ideology is to be liberated from God. We, the religious people, we have boundaries, we have rules, we have laws. For example, I'm a Muslim. I can't drink alcohol. I can't eat pork. I have to pray 5 times a day. Liberals, that's their entire ideology. It's to go against any of these laws. It's to go against any of these rules. Because they're being liberated from God. And that's what I'm seeing today. There's an epidemic on culture. There's an attack on culture. And the transition from there is to being a liberal. You guys are being too open-minded. The parents are being too open-minded. You guys have lost it. I'm going to be very honest. I'm very disappointed in parents nowadays. I go play soccer on Tuesdays. Grown-ass man, 40-year-olds. They're screaming, they're yelling, they're emotional in the field because they didn't give him the foul. He's yelling, he's cursing God. He gets home and he watches TV. That's what he does. He doesn't give time to his children. That's the leaders of the next generation that we have. Those are the parents, those are the fathers that are raising the next generation. And we wonder why we have a hedonistic, degenerate society and generation. We wonder why we don't have cultural people anymore. We wonder why Lebanese people, or in general, any other particular group, has lost their culture and they're westernized. You've fallen for the American propaganda, for the American degeneracy, for the American hedonism, which is self-centered, which is being a liberal. That's the whole ideology. Liberals have an issue. And liberals are very dangerous. The reason they're very dangerous is simply because their ideology revolves around their feelings. We are liberated from God, therefore our God is our feelings. We do what we want to do. Now let me ask you this. If you make your decisions and your choices based on how you feel, because that's what liberalism is. You make your decisions and choices based on how you feel. If you do that, is it okay for me to smash your face in when I feel like it? Is it okay for me to hit my wife in the face because I felt like it? This is why we have religion. Liberalism has no moral compass. They have no boundaries. They have no laws. In fact, the whole movement of liberalism is that there are no boundaries. We do what we feel like doing. And everyone has different feelings, so everyone can do whatever they want to do. I'm a man, but I'm feeling like becoming a woman, so I become a woman. I become a transgender is what they call it. I'm a woman, but I feel like becoming a man, so I become a man. They call it a transgender is what they call it. That's because I feel like becoming this way, so I do it. Because I'm liberal. Liberalism. Liberalism was a movement that started a long time ago. But there was a German guy back in World War II who tried to stop it. He began the whole war because of the Weimar movement. Look it up. The Weimar movement was led by secular Jews. They were spreading filth. They were spreading hedonism, degeneracy, liberalism, transgenderism, homosexuality. And that's why he went ahead and he wanted to kill all of them. Because they were spreading filth. And when you spread filth, that's how you have a degenerate, a hedonistic society that can be influenced and controlled the way you want it to be controlled. Because if you think through your feelings and you make your decisions based on your feelings, that means you're influential. I can influence you, I can persuade you, I can manipulate you if I made you feel some type of way. That's what the media does. It wants you to be a liberal so that it can control you left and right. Which brings me to my third point. Iran. You have liberals that are chanting free Iran. Free Iran from who? From what? From the Islamic regime. People ask me what is my opinion on Iran. Long live the Islamic Republic of Iran. I'm Shia Lebanese from the south of Lebanon. What do you expect me to do? You expect me to go against Iran? Long live the Islamic Republic of Iran. They're the only ones who stood for Palestine. When everyone was watching, they were the only ones who stood for Palestine. The Shias were the only ones who stood for Palestine. And yet, we try to make the Shias the enemy, when the Shias are the real heroes of this planet. The reason they're the real heroes of this planet is because the Shias' ideology is based on the martyrdom of Imam al-Hussein in Karbala. And Imam al-Hussein stood for humanity. He stood for justice. He had the chance to leave, to flee. He was given the chance. Yazid told him, take your family and get out of here, and we won't hurt you. He said, I will not leave. I will stand for justice. Even though, regardless, he knew he was going to die. He knew he was going to be killed. He stood for justice. And that's exactly what Iran did. They stood for Palestine. They stood for Palestine against the United States of America and against Israel. That's what Lebanon did. That's what all the Shias did. And yet we want to portray Iran as an enemy. We want to portray the Shias as an enemy. When the Shias are the ones who actually stood for justice, like Imam al-Hussein. Like what Imam al-Hussein did in Karbala. Let me explain to you what's going on in Iran. But before I do, let me finish off the point of liberalism. Liberalism, these people that are rioting in Iran are liberals. They're Zionists. The riots started by Mossad agents of Israel, by CIA and Mossad agents. Now, everyone is saying the Islamic Republic is killing civilians. That's because you're being brainwashed with this propaganda from the media. Who controls the media? Who controls Facebook, Instagram, Meta? Who controls it? Meta is controlled by Mark Zuckerberg, pro-Israel. He's a Jew. CNN, CNBC, Paramount, Disney, Nickelodeon, all of the news outlets. Who control these? The Zionists. Alphabet owns Google, which is also owned and controlled by Zionism. YouTube is controlled by Zionists. TikTok now was bought and is controlled by Zionists. You're a fool for falling for their tricks. You're a fool for falling for their propaganda. You're a fool for thinking that Iran is the enemy. You're a fool, that's what you are. If they control all of the media, that means they can manipulate you. The reason they push liberalism is that so that you start thinking through your feelings and making decisions through your feelings. When you start thinking like that, when you start living like that, then they control the medias. Whatever they push out there, they will emotionally manipulate you to side with them. And you're falling for the propaganda. You're being brainwashed. That's why they want you to be a liberal. That's why they're pushing liberalism towards you. So that they can control you. I'm not telling you to be a Republican. But Republicans have boundaries. Republicans have laws. They have rules. When you're religious, you have laws, you have rules. You have a book that you follow, and you cannot break those rules. Because you have boundaries, you respect God, you love God. You're not allowed to drink. You're not allowed to have sex before marriage. You're not allowed to eat pork. That's what religion says. And they're afraid of religion. They're afraid of Islam. Because Islam enforces rules. It goes against corruption. They cannot influence Muslims because Muslims have rules. Have a drink? No, I'm Muslim. Come sleep around? No, I'm Muslim. And you guys are falling for the propaganda. You guys are falling for the American culture. Wake up. You guys are falling for this hedonistic, degenerate society that they want you to be. You guys are falling for being a liberal. I've missed the days where parents were strict with their children, where they had boundaries with their children, where they taught their children actual skill sets, where they taught them respect, dignity, pride. We've lost all of that. So you have Zionists in Iran. The rioting was started by Mossad agents, and these Zionists went ahead and started rioting with the Mossad agents, is what happened. And then these Mossad agents were given weapons by we all know who. And whenever these rioters started rioting and they became bigger and bigger, these Mossad agents would hide and they would start shooting these rioters and blaming it on Iran and filming it. Look at the bodies. Yeah, those are real bodies. Those are real people being killed by Mossad agents. And you're falling for it. This is why Iran brought ambassadors to show them clips of these Mossad agents committing these crimes. Because it gives the United States of America another reason to attack Iran. Why do they want to attack Iran? Because if you attack Iran and you get rid of Iran, you destabilize the whole Middle East, which is what they're trying to do. You take over Iran, you take over Palestine, you take over Lebanon, you take over all of the Middle East, which is what they wanted. Oh, but there's actual people that don't want to live under the Islamic regime. So what? There are people that don't want to live and they're against their government in every country. In America, there are people that are against their government. In Russia, in China. China doesn't have free speech. How about that? There's people that are against that. There was a time where there were riots in China and students were rioting to get free speech. You know what the Chinese government did? They killed them. There's videos about this, you can go watch. As a consequence for their actions, they killed them. But the people that do these riotings most of the time are liberals. Liberals are the ones to be corrupted, to want to corrupt. You think it's fair to burn down mosques and children are inside and you're killing children and you're destroying mosques? You think it's okay to destroy a place of worship? The liberals would say that's okay because they're acting based on their feelings. That's how they felt, so that's fine. Those are the Zionists. That's what's going on with Iran. That's what's going on with liberalism. That's what's going on with culture. They want you to forget your culture. They want you to be liberal. They want you to think that Iran is the bad guy. After they take over the Middle East, they're going to move to Asia. After they take over Asia, then they're going to move on to the big guys. Russia and China. They're trying to take global power over the entire world. And some of you guys are still asleep. Americans are fools for falling for this propaganda. You guys always fall for the propaganda. It's 2026. It's about time you wake up. You don't believe everything you see. It's about time you question things. It's about time you wake up and you understand what's going on. It's about time that you understand that us, the Shias, we want peace, we want justice. We're the only ones that are helping Palestine and Palestinian people. And yet you frame us as the enemy. You think that we're bad people. It's unbelievable how you're falling for the propaganda and brainwashing BS that the media is throwing at you. You need to connect the dots. Who owns the media? The Zionists. Who wants the Middle East? The Zionists. Who started the war in Iran or the protests or the riots in Iran? Mossad agents, which are Zionists. Why? Because they're trying to find an excuse to attack Iran. Because they want to take over Iran. Because Iran is the only one that can go against the US. They're scared of Iran. If they take Iran down, they destabilize the whole Middle East. And you guys are still falling for the propaganda of the Zionists. That's it. That's what's going on. Long live the Islamic Republic of Iran.